What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Financier. Today, we'll do a quick deep dive into the Microsoft Nuance deal. This is a major deal for Microsoft. It was not covered in most places I look for articles. I'm surprised given the size and scope of Nuance, Microsoft, cloud, healthcare, a combination of some major assets coming together. It's a pretty exciting deal. Let me know if you're chiming in, where you're streaming from. If you haven't checked it out already, there were some past episodes. We talked about other deals. We talked about the economics yesterday, macroeconomics with Jerome Powell. We talked a lot about Coinbase IPO, a lot of other things last week. So I'm looking to do a lot more of these. Today, we'll talk about the Microsoft Nuance deal, do a lot more on technology. If you have anything you'd like to hear or talk about, let me know in the comments, tweet, or just ask a question whenever you get a chance. But Microsoft, obviously, it's the biggest player. It's been around since 1975. It's definitely one of the largest big four players. It's been around the longest. Big business. A lot of people use the enterprise operating system. Across the board, Microsoft Office is huge. All the major companies have they're touching Microsoft products in some fashion. So the Nuance deal is gigantic. Nuance is a communications platform company. It provides voice technologies. It's been doing it, I think, since like 92. It's a big provider in voice communication for healthcare, particularly if you're not aware, transcription services, things that are involved in those type of technologies to help people transcribe, figure out how to just get, if you think about when you go visit a doctor, handwriting is terrible. So note taking is not an option, especially when you're looking at x-rays and other things in front of you. You want to be able to talk about what's on your mind when you're looking at a screening or looking at a patient. So this is a really big deal. Nuance was a gigantic company, looking at $19.7 billion, $16 billion on page, and then $3 billion in earnouts. So it's a major deal. I think this is really interesting. So first up, congratulations to the team. Satya has done an awesome job. This is definitely the largest acquisition they've done in recent times. So it's a big move for them. Nuance has a huge presence in the healthcare industry, so it's not a surprise why Microsoft would enter this space. 23% premium, that's a big jump for any company, but at the size, when you're talking about 16, 17, $20 billion deals, there are very few competitors. Not even private equity would usually compete in this space because this is a strategic deal. So Microsoft has, one, the cash to fuel this acquisition, and two, they really want this business, and they will be better as a strategic buyer to get into this game. So this has now been the biggest deal for them. It's since LinkedIn. They bought LinkedIn in 2016. This is being streamed on LinkedIn. Microsoft has integrated a couple of their products in LinkedIn. So this is a pretty big deal for Microsoft. It will move the needle for them the next 10 years. If you haven't already seen some of the Microsoft products that are being released, there's the Mesh, there's the HoloLens, a couple of the hardware products combined with the gaming software and hardware. Going into voice, which is what Nuance specializes in, I think is a very strategic, very synergistic in some areas. I already personally bet big on voice technologies. I use it every day, all the time. I do more voice typing than actual typing, and then I edit later. So for me, I've always looked at Nuance. I know a lot of people in the medical field that have been using Nuance. One of my uncles has been using it for, 20 plus years. It's an amazing piece of software. It actually can transcribe like very complicated medical terms. I'm not even going to try to pretend I know any, but it does such a good job that it doesn't even require editing. So it's better than my Google Voice and Google Typing software. It probably has some application of machine learning. It's practiced so many different terms, and it adapts to your voice. And it did this way before anybody else has done this. So it's very impressive. It's definitely stood the test of time. So it's very good for Microsoft. Nuance was doing all right during this pre-term. They reported $7 million in net income on about $346 million in revenue last quarter. So they're about $1 billion revenue business, pretty big. That multiple is gigantic with 7,000 employees. It's a pretty big business overall, very tiny when compared to Microsoft. that I think it does like $183 billion in sales. So these guys are definitely going to move the needle because they'll provide mostly, I think, the underlying software and technologies that 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 Microsoft needs. And then two, they have relationships with a lot of the healthcare systems. We're talking about, EHRs, which are all the enterprise software specifically designed for medical systems. And then they are used by 55% of the physicians, radiologists, 75% of those, and then almost 80% of US hospitals. So this gives Microsoft a direct into those channels. And being a channel partner in the software world is one of the key drivers to be successful. So it's very impressive to see them do this. Nuance's healthcare cloud revenue experienced 37% growth year over year in 2020. No surprise given the need and demand for healthcare during the pandemic. So I would bet that these guys probably bought them at a fair price. I'm not going to say it's a steal since, almost $20 billion is a lot of money for anybody. But Microsoft needs to make a big move. It's done a great job with LinkedIn. I think they have a lot left in the workspace, enterprise workspace, that they can do. There's obviously rumors about them acquiring Discord, which is another communications messaging software. So if they can really do some big deals in the space, which they have the firepower, they just need to close the deals, they will be able to attack the consumer and the business verticals in a very big way and still remain competitive, which is really the flagship behind Microsoft, because they've been market leaders in technology for I think 45 to almost 50 years now. So it's very impressive to see them do this. I'm still very excited to see what they do with LinkedIn. It's a gigantic deal. In my eyes, it still hasn't done enough to move the needle because there's no other professional services, B2B software in this space. And there's so much more to be done in this space. Make it interactive with virtual events, make it more engaging with groups and communities. So there's so many ways. I think voice and messaging are missing parts in all online events. So I think Microsoft has a really big upside with all these deals they've done. It definitely takes a lot of manpower to move, a $1 billion revenue business, push it to 3, 4, 5 billion, and then integrate it in your own software products. But if anyone can do it, it's Microsoft and Satya and his team. So this is very impressive. I think we'll see more of these deals from competitors like Oracle and SAP to enter the space. So that wraps it up. I wanted to do a quick dive on this. If you got any questions on this deal or any other upcoming deals, I got a couple other major ones with an IPO, an acquisition, maybe the Toshiba going private deal later this week. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. This is very exciting for me. I love covering this stuff and then seeing what else is going on because this market is changing. But a lot of these old companies are still around, still crushing it. Nuance has been around for a very long period of time. So it's very good to see them, get that payout after 20 plus years of being in business, or 30 years. So that wraps it up for the Finance here today. Thank you everybody for joining in. I'll see you later this week.